Yes, thank you, James. So welcome, guys. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about a subject that I'm so interested in. And oh, good to know. Thanks so much. And it's amazing to see so many people here from different places of the world. I will briefly introduce myself when we officially start, but I can see that there are people from different countries and from different professional backgrounds as well, which is amazing. I saw some site civil engineers, design engineers, construction site manager, structural engineer, system manager. So it's amazing. I'm really happy to be here today. And I think it will be an interesting discussion. Okay. I will ask your patience sometimes because I can see that other attendees are still entering the room and I'm here alone. So I need to allow people to enter the room. So yeah, I can see other people are entering, but I think it's okay. I am trying to admit everyone very quickly. So yeah, let's officially start. First of all, I want to give you some overview. Let me increase the size of the screen. Just 1 second. Yeah, perfect. So before we officially start, let me just highlight this. It's very important for you to turn off the notifications during our meeting, okay? And since we are using Microsoft Teams, the way to do that is to select the 3 dots for settings and more, okay? You will choose settings, as you can see here, okay? And then in this option here about notification and activity, you need to turn off the show notifications during calls and messages, okay? And then to turn them back on is just to do this again and to check the show notifications during call and meetings, okay? So this is just to guarantee you will not be interrupted during the presentation, okay? I really expect to present interesting topics for you guys today, okay? And please, if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end of this technical webinar. We just have 1 hour here and we will talk about a detailed and deep topic, okay? So I will try to present everything to bring some examples, some practical examples, some explanations. But then if you have any questions regarding the slides, regarding EIT courses, regarding anything, please use the Q&A button. You can open the Q&A on the top of your screen in Microsoft Teams, okay? And you can create a new post and you can put, you can start a discussion, you can put your questions, but feel free to use the chat box as well. But if you use the Q&A, we will have the questions in a separate way. I think it will be easier for us to follow everything, okay? But again, it's amazing to see everyone here from different backgrounds, different countries. And just for you to know, you will receive the copy of the slides that will be presented here today, okay? And also the video recording. So everyone registered for this webinar will receive the copy of the PDF slides and the link to the video recording within the next 2 business days via email, okay? So please monitor your junk email folder, okay? Sometimes it can be the case, so check this. After 3 days, if you don't receive anything, we can contact us, but normally we don't have problems with that, okay? So I'm pretty sure you will receive these and everything will be fine. So please wait 2 business days, okay? And check your email. And you will also receive the certificate of attendance. So let me accept the other people who are entering. So welcome everyone. And as I was saying, everyone will receive the slides, the video recording, and also a free digital certificate of attendance for the live attendees for the technical topic webinar, okay? So you will receive a QR code. Actually, I will put the link here at the end of this presentation. You will enter, this will be a form, a short form, okay? At the end of this session, I will provide that here on the chat box, okay? So you will be able to complete, and you will receive within the next 4 business days, you will receive a certificate of attendance, and you can use that. You can post that on LinkedIn. You can use that in your CV. So feel free to use the certificate, okay? So let me continue. And guys, before we officially start the technical discussion, I think this technical webinar provided by EIT is an amazing opportunity for you to know a little bit more about our courses and about our college, okay? So let me talk a little bit about that very quickly. And of course, if you have more questions, you can ask, and we can also reach out after this technical webinar as well, okay? But just for you to understand, here we are talking about the Engineering College of Technology and also the Engineering Institute of Technology, okay? In our courses, we focus exclusively on engineering and technology. So we offer several specialized courses for high demand industries. I will give you some examples. I deliver some higher education courses, some VET courses as well, okay? And there are many other lectures, and they are always specialists in engineering, in technology, in their domains, okay? And our courses are built by global experts and delivered by experienced engineers. So this is not just my approach. Actually, this is the approach of the whole college. We are very focused on hands-on experience, practical job-ready skills, okay? Our courses are globally recognized, okay? So if you decide to enroll a course at EIT, you will have the diploma, the certificate, which is recognized worldwide, okay? And both institutions, the Engineering College of Technology and the Engineering Institute of Technology, offer a range of professional development courses. Okay, so this is not just about undergraduation, master's, and PhD, because we have these options, but we also have more professional development courses. So advanced diplomas, certificates of competency. There are several possibilities, okay, depending on your reality, your necessity, okay, the path in your career that you want to develop. We are very innovative, engaging, and practical online learning course. Okay, so our approach is to use cutting-edge tools to facilitate live webinars and access to remote labs and simulations. This is very interesting to be highlighted because, for example, today, I will mention some technologies, some methodologies which are very innovative, very advanced, and unfortunately, many professionals associated with the construction industry continue to use just traditional approaches instead of using more advanced technologies. But at EIT, we have these technologies available for the students to use, to practice, to learn, okay, in a practical way. So again, we are very focused on hands-on experience, and we have remote labs and simulations for you to learn, even if we are talking about an online course. Okay, so for example, I deliver a unit about the BIM methodology. I don't know if you have heard about that, but we will mention this in the presentation today. And the course is not just theoretical, okay? This is very practical, actually. So the students will be able to see the development of a case study, because I develop case studies together with the students in the live classes. But then the students can use the remote lab to book a session and to use the programs to develop their own projects. Okay, so this is an amazing opportunity for you to improve your technical skills as well. Okay, we have small classes and dedicated support to help students succeed. We are very focused on that as well. And again, we have a global learning community with students and members of faculty based across the whole world. Okay, so you will have an international networking and several opportunities abroad, which is amazing. Okay, and finally, our courses are accessible and we are very focused on high quality education. So we offer world-class education at an affordable price through innovative delivery and business modules. Okay, is it clear for everyone? Do you have any questions about that before we officially start the technical part? Is everything okay? If you have any questions, please use the chat box. Okay. Oh, I can see that there is already a question in the Q&A session about the certificate. I mentioned that at the beginning. At the end of this session, I will provide a link in the chat box. You will fill in the form, and in about 4 business days, you will receive the PDF, a digital certificate, and you can share that on LinkedIn. You can put that on your CV, okay? And besides the certificate of attendance, you will also receive the PDF with all the slides that will be presented today and also the video recording, okay? Amazing. Thank you guys for your feedback. If you have any questions, please let me know, okay? I'm here to try to assist you guys the best way that I can. And just a disclaimer, the courses and qualifications mentioned in this presentation are offered by separate legal entities, okay? One in Australia and one in the United Kingdom. Each entity is subject to its own local regulatory requirements and accreditation standards. But if you have any questions about that, you can check our websites. You can see the websites here, the Australian website, and the website for the Engineering College of Technology in the United Kingdom, okay? And there are many details in the websites, and you can also reach out by email, on LinkedIn, okay? So we have different ways for you to contact us. Well, but that's it regarding this initial presentation about our courses and about our institute, okay? But let's get started without further ado. Let me admit the other people. Again, guys, a little sorry, because sometimes I will need to stop a little bit to admit new attendees who are entering now, okay? But as you know, the presentation today, the title of this presentation, sorry, is Designing for Circularity, Life Cycle Thinking in Civil and Environmental Engineering. We will discuss that more deeply throughout the following hour, but just a brief introduction about myself. I'm Dr. Caroline Figueiredo. I'm Brazilian. Actually, I'm in Rio now, in Brazil. For me, it's now 5:15 p.m. Okay, I don't know what time is it for you, but again, this is amazing to have people from all around the world, different time zones, different backgrounds, different cultures, and I love this at EIT. I always learn so much from the students, and we are very focused on active learning methodologies. So the idea is not for me to be here just to talk, but I also want to hear from you guys, your expertise, your examples, your practical projects, Okay, it's amazing to have this kind of discussion. Of course, today, this is not a whole course. This is just 1 hour webinar. Okay. Oh my goodness, 2 a.m. in Nepal. So thanks so much for being here. You are so brave. Thanks so much. Oh, 11:15 p.m., 10 p.m. Okay, so very late for almost everyone. But again, thanks so much for your attendance. I really appreciate that. And I will try to do my best to give you guys interesting topics to be discussed here today, okay? Oh, for you, it's better in Fiji, 8 a.m. Amazing. So again, I'm an EIT lecturer and also a unit coordinator, and I work in the Civil and Structural Engineering department, okay? A brief introduction about myself. I will not read everything. If you want, we can follow each other on LinkedIn. We can reach out in other moments. But I'm a civil engineer with a master's and a PhD degrees in environmental engineering. So for the last 10 years, my focus has been on sustainable construction, okay? I work as a researcher as well. So I already published a book. It was published 1 year ago, and it's available on Amazon if you want to check, okay? And it's about how to optimize construction material selection to reduce environmental, social, and economic impacts throughout the use of different technologies. And actually, this is the main topic for today. So I'm really happy to be here to discuss this topic with you. I already worked in different universities around the world, in Spain, Chile, also in Australia. Now I'm based in Brazil, but I work remotely for EIT, and this has been an amazing experience for me. So about the presentation today, let me check because there are more people entering. Okay, I think now they are here. So the agenda for today, we will talk about life cycle thinking, the life cycle stages in engineering projects, and we will focus more on the circularity concept, more specifically in civil and environmental engineering. But of course, we can extrapolate this discussion to other domains, to other sectors, other industries as well, okay? And as I mentioned before, I think some people entered later today. At the end of this presentation, there will be a Q&A session. So if you have any questions regarding the content I am presenting, regarding anything about EIT, about the technical content, please put your question in the chat box. There is also a Q&A session on the top of our screen, okay? So you can put your questions there. And if possible, I will try to answer by the time you put the question, but if not, at the end, I will check all the questions for us to have a quick Q&A session, okay? But let's officially start this technical part because this is what you are expecting for today. And I want to highlight something very important. The construction sector plays a pivotal role in shaping sustainable development. As one of the largest consumers of materials and energy worldwide, the industry has a profound influence on environmental quality, economic resilience, and social well-being. It's very important to highlight this here because sometimes several professionals associated with the construction industry don't realize that it's our responsibility to minimize the negative impacts caused by our projects. Okay, of course, our projects will continue to be very important. Actually, they are essential for the development of the society. We need to create and to develop, to construct more buildings, infrastructure projects, more places for people to live, to work, to study, to thrive. But we know that everything is evolving very fast. And sustainability is not only a keyword that everyone is using nowadays. No, this is mandatory. we need to consider sustainability aspects in our projects because strong links exist between construction and the three main pillars of sustainability. And we will talk about that, but do you know what are the three main pillars of sustainability? I will mention that later today, but do you have any ideas? When we talk about the concept sustainability, we normally think about the environment, but actually there are three main pillars, not only the environment, but we can also talk about two other pillars. Do you know? Have you ever heard about that before? So I will show you in the following. Oh, amazing. Yes, you are totally right. So social, economic, and environmental aspects. We need to consider these together. We need to find a balancing approach to guarantee our construction project is really sustainable, okay? So designing sustainable buildings requires balancing multiple criteria. We will need to consider quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, all together, okay? But unfortunately, traditional project decisions often overlook broader life cycle impacts. It's very common to see traditional companies very focused on technical issues or economic issues, financial aspects, which is also important, of course. We need to guarantee the resistance, the safety of our structure, but this is so much more than that, okay? Yes, exactly, Gordon. The triple waterline approach. We use this terminology a lot when we talk about sustainability. Amazing. So that's the idea. And more than talking about sustainability, because you are totally right. When we talk about sustainability, this is not just about environmental aspects. This is a common misconception. We need to think about this triple bottom line approach, as Gordon said, and this is totally right. But this is more than that, because sometimes people think about the three pillars together, but just during the design stage of a construction project. And this is not enough. We need to consider the life cycle thinking approach. Actually, in the literature, we normally use this acronym here, LCT, which stands for life cycle thinking. And this is a holistic approach that evaluates a project's impacts across the entire lifespan. So I will mention these in the following slides, but for example, if I consider the impacts during the construction stage of the building, but then I don't calculate, I don't predict the impacts that will be caused throughout the operational stage of the building, sometimes the building will last 100 years, okay? So it's not enough to consider the impacts just during the design and construction stages. We really need to think about the whole lifespan of the facility, okay? So instead of focusing only on the design or construction phase, LCT considers how decisions made early in a project influence on environmental, social, and economic outcomes from material extraction to the end of life of the facility. So we are focused on the entire cradle to grave or even cradle to cradle journey, because today we will talk about circularity. So the idea is to reuse, recycle some components, some systems. So instead of going from cradle to grave, we will go from cradle to cradle, and this will be a cycle, okay? And we will reuse and recycle some components, some systems, some materials, okay? So the idea here is to encourage informed, forward-looking design decisions and support the selection of materials, technologies, and processes that minimize long-term impacts. So the idea is to shift our mindset from short-term performance to long-term value. And when we talk about shifting the mindset, it's very important to highlight this here, because unfortunately, the construction industry is known as one of the industries that least adopt new technologies, which is very sad. But this is true. I don't know in your countries, in your cities, but I already worked in Australia. Now I work as a civil engineer here in Brazil. And I always realize that professionals and companies associated with the construction industry, they really insist on using traditional methods, traditional materials. It's very difficult to change their mindsets. But I'm trying to do my part, and I hope you are trying to do yours as well, because we need to change this mindset to stop thinking about our project as separate elements. We need to consider our project as a system, okay? And to improve the collaboration, to improve communication among the stakeholders, and to improve the decision-making process throughout the whole project life cycle, not only during the design stage, okay? And this will form the foundation for circular engineering and sustainable design. So why LCT, the life cycle thinking, matters for circularity? First of all, it identifies hotspots of waste, emissions, and resource use. So LCT shows which stages of the life cycle have the greatest impact, enabling target circular strategies. Okay, so what is the main point here? We are talking about when we are dealing with complex projects, emissions or resource inefficiencies rarely occur evenly across the entire life cycle. So when we consider LCT, life cycle thinking, it allows us to pinpoint exactly where the major burdens occur, whether in material extraction, transportation, manufacturing, maintenance. And this level of diagnostic precision is crucial because it prevents us from applying generic sustainability fixes, okay? So the idea is to support us to use targeted interventions with measurable results, okay? This is our main focus here. Another important point to be highlighted, LCT supports material efficiency and resource optimization. So it helps engineers choose materials and design solutions that maximize reuse, recycling, and recovery, as I mentioned before, okay? And this is particularly important today because material scarcity and supply chain volatility continue to challenge our sector, the construction sector. So basically, LCT, let me admit to the other people who are entering. So basically, LCT enables engineers to compare the embodied carbon of materials, but also the durability, the maintenance cycles, the end of life, recoverability, okay? The comparability with modular design, circular design strategies. So basically, this is where circularity becomes actionable, okay? We are using informed material selection rather than intuition or some conventions or something like that, okay? Another important point, just 1 second because more people are entering. So another point, it also enables long-term decision-making rather than short-term optimization. As I mentioned before, to think about the whole life cycle. So circularity requires thinking beyond initial costs to consider durability, adaptability, maintenance, end-of-life pathways, and so on, okay? Because we know that traditional value engineering tends to prioritize short-term cost savings, and this is often at the expense of resilience and adaptability. So when we talk about life cycle thinking, we are shifting this conversation, okay? Because LCT allows us to quantitatively justify decisions that reduce operational costs, that extend the service life, that minimize future retrofit burdens, okay? So this means we can defend long-term value decisions using data, okay? So we are talking about informed decision-making processes rather than relying solely on some narratives, some arguments that sometimes you don't know where it started, okay? It also reduces environmental impacts while improving resilience, which is amazing, okay? So circular projects perform better over time, using fewer resources, generating less waste, and adapting more easily to changing needs. And finally, it strengthens the link between design, construction, and the end-of-life recovery. And this connection throughout the whole building life cycle is very important. So LCT ensures that reuse and recycling potential are considered from the very beginning, not retrofitted later, okay? And this is also very important because in practice, this is where many projects fall short, because end-of-life planning is still afterthought in conventional design. And when we use LCT, it ensures that the potential for reuse, remanufacturing, recycling is embedded from the beginning, okay? So writing the architectural, structural, mechanical decisions since the early design stages. And this approach empowers us to transform buildings and infrastructure projects from linear resource sinks into material banks, okay? So the idea is to retain value across multiple life cycles, okay? Is it clear for everyone? Can I continue? I can see that more people are entering. I hope you will be able to follow the discussion. But as I mentioned before, everyone will receive the PDF with the slides and also the video recording besides the certificate of attendance, okay? So regarding the life cycle stages in engineering, this is very important to be highlighted because we are talking about considering the whole life cycle of the project, but we are talking about engineering. So we are talking about challenging projects, okay? So which are the stages that we should consider in our sustainability analysis? First of all, raw material extraction and sourcing. So we will consider mining, harvesting, recovering materials needed for manufacturing. So as you can see here, we are talking about analyzing the materials, the components since the beginning, since the raw material extraction and sourcing. And at this stage, most environmental burdens are concentrated in embodied energy and embodied carbon, okay? So the experts know how dramatically extraction and refining processes vary across materials. So we can talk about steel, concrete, aluminum, timber, composites. It will vary a lot depending on the material. And when we talk about, for example, a residential building, there will be all these materials all together in the same project. So that's why it's very complicated when we talk about life cycle thinking, sustainability analysis. This is more straightforward. I will not say it will be easier, but it's more straightforward. If we are talking about analyzing, I don't know, a cell phone, because it's like a small component, a small facility, a small element with a list of materials that were used to create the cell phone or to create a car, for example. Of course, this can be comprehensive, this can be complicated. But at the end of the day, when we compare this with a bridge, a dam, a commercial building, the list of material will be so much bigger and so much more extensive and more complicated. So depending on the materials, the extraction and refining processes can vary a lot, okay? And also, early choices will cascade into long-term impacts. So this is also where responsible sourcing, certification schemes, supply chain transparency play a significant role in supporting circular procurement strategies. And many people, many professionals don't think about raw material extraction and sourcing, but this is so important, okay? Then we can also talk about manufacturing and prefabrication. So basically, processing materials into components, assemblies, or modular elements, okay? And this is where design decisions are locked in. So the level of automation, the waste reduction techniques, modularity, if we are using off-site fabrication methods or not, all of these points will influence the circular outcomes. So for example, if we use prefabrication, it can significantly reduce the waste streams, but only if components are designed for reuse, for disassembly, okay? So basically, we need to consider several criteria here as well. Basically, this is the stage where digital tools and parametric optimization will reduce the inefficiencies of the whole project. Then we need to consider transportation and logistics, so the movements of materials, equipment, components to the construction site. And this stage is very important as well, because while transportation is often a smaller percentage of the overall impacts compared to materials, it becomes critical for circularity because if we talk about, for example, reverse logistics, bringing materials back for reuse or recycling, it will depend on efficient systems. Okay, so we need to consider not just the distances, but freight modes, consolidation, routing, regional circular ecosystems. So there are many aspects that we should consider to make material loops feasible. Okay, so this is not just the transportation from the manufacturing stage to the construction site. Since we are thinking about circularity, the transportation and logistics will appear several times throughout the whole life cycle. Then we have the construction and installation stage to execute the project on site, so assembling, installing systems, ensuring compliance, and so on. Okay, let me check if there are more people entering. Yeah. So the construction stage, we know that waste generation will occur, okay? So we need to have several decisions around sequencing, temporary works, modular assembly, the quality control, okay? And all these points will affect the construction stage as well. Then we have the operation, use, and maintenance, and sometimes the refurbishment, repurposing, or upgrading of our project. So building performance, energy consumption, repair cycles, long-term efficiency should be considered. And sometimes we will try to extend the asset's lifespan by adapting it to new demands. So this will cause different impacts as well. So we need to consider operational energy, maintenance cycles, indoor environmental quality, systems performance. Okay, so we need to think about this phase. And for this phase, it's very useful if we use technologies in our favor. And I will mention some possibilities in the following slides. And finally, we have the end of life phase regarding deconstruction, but also reuse and recycling. So we will focus on disassembling components, recovering materials, and reintegrating them into new cycles, because we are focused on circularity, okay? So the end of life is where traditional linear construction ends, okay? But here we are talking about circularity. And the end of life is where circular construction begins, okay? So instead of demolition, we shift to deconstruction, okay? So we will recover components with high residual value. So basically, we need to recognize the importance of material passports, building logbooks, digital inventories, okay? We need to use these approaches to support efficient material recovery, because the goal here is not merely recycling, but we want to preserve the highest possible value of components through reuse, remanufacturing, upcycling, okay? So there are many approaches that we can consider. So basically, as I imagine you already understood, circularity aims to keep materials, components, and resources in use for as long as possible while minimizing waste and environmental impacts. And in civil and environmental engineering, this approach transforms the way we design, build, operate, and deconstruct infrastructure and buildings. So we can say that circular practice supports adaptability and modularity using flexible layouts, modular design, and prefabricated elements that can be easily disassembled and reconfigured, okay? And at the same time, circularity aims to reduce environmental impacts across the life cycle by lowering embodied carbon, resource consumption, and pollution from extraction to operation. But why sustainability requires more than environmental considerations? I already talked about that today, and you were totally right when you said that we need to consider a triple bottom line approach. But a common misconception in sustainability discussions is focusing solely on environmental concerns while overlooking the social and economic dimensions. And this is very unfortunate because true sustainability is based on a triple bottom line framework which integrates environmental, social, and economic factors. While reducing material use, waste, and emissions is crucial, these efforts must also be aligned with improving workforce conditions, reducing project costs, and enhancing long-term financial viability. So let me just give you a very simple and practical example of why focusing only on environmental aspects can actually create new problems instead of solving them, okay? And unfortunately, we know that this happens in the construction industry. So imagine, for example, a project or a project team who chooses a low carbon, highly sustainable material. This is amazing. For example, let's say they chose to use an innovative bio-based composite for facade panels, for example, okay? If we consider these projects from an environmental perspective, it performs extremely well, okay? We will have low embodied carbon, renewable raw sources, excellent thermal performance because we are using bio-based composite for facades, okay? But if the team doesn't consider the economic and social dimensions, many issues can appear, okay? For example, sometimes this material will require specialized installation skills that the local workforce doesn't have. So it will mean importing labor or running extensive training programs, which can be a complicated situation depending on the project, depending on the company. This can also increase the project costs and will delay the construction. So it will affect the economic viability of the project. And because spare parts or replacements will not be available regionally, maintenance will become expensive and slow, okay? So we are reducing the long-term resilience. We can also think about the end of life because if we don't have the material being locally processed or recycled at the end of life, it will undermine circularity, even though it looked sustainable on paper at the beginning, okay? So despite having excellent environmental performance, when we think about the design stage, we will see that the solution becomes unsustainable in practice because it doesn't align with local economic capacity, with supply chain readiness, with the workforce capability in our local community, okay? So this is exactly why we need to look at sustainability in a holistic way, okay? Considering the triple bottom line approach, as you guys mentioned. So these are the three main pillars of sustainability: profit, people, and planet, or economy, society, and the environment, okay? And when we talk about analyzing the environmental impacts, social impacts, and economic impacts of a project, we can use the life cycle sustainability assessment methodology. I use this methodology a lot in my own my own projects here in Brazil, okay? And basically, this methodology has emerged as a comprehensive approach to evaluating products, methods, and services. So pay attention to that. This methodology was not created specifically for the construction industry. We can use that in any domain for any kinds of product, method, or service. But in the construction industry, this has been used a lot worldwide, and this can assist us a lot in improving our decision-making process. So basically, we can say that LCSA, the Life Cycle Sustainability Assessment, will be split into 3 different parts. LCA, which is the environmental part, so we will focus on the environmental impact. The Social Life Cycle Assessment, or SLCA, evaluating the social implications like worker safety, labor conditions, community benefits, and so on. And the Life Cycle Costing, or LCC, assessing the economic feasibility by analyzing initial costs, operational expenses, long-term financial performance, and so on. So that's the idea. We will sum up LCA, LCC, and social LCA to achieve the life cycle sustainability assessment, okay? Just for you to know, there is an ISO standard. So this is standardized, this methodology. The ISO is numbered 14040, okay? And this ISO standard is about the environmental life cycle assessment, okay? We normally use the expression LCA. We don't need to use the word environmental necessarily. When we just say life cycle assessment, we are talking about the environmental analysis, okay? But nowadays we know that we need to consider the 3 pillars of sustainability together, okay? So basically, the ISO standard proposes this framework here. We will define the goal and scope of our analysis. Then we will collect data to create the life cycle inventory. Then we will assess the impacts generated based on this inventory. And then we will have the interpretation phase to analyze the outcomes of the project and to improve our decisions, okay? So this is a figure that I created. You have the source here. This is a chapter of a book that I published in 2023, okay, about that. And basically, that's the idea. We will have the goal and scope definition, life cycle inventory, life cycle assessment, and the interpretation phase, as you can see, will be transversal, okay? Because depending on the complexity of the project, sometimes we will need to change some decisions over time, okay? And we will always continue to interpret our data, okay? Here we can see the life cycle of a conventional building and a modular building. Just for you to understand that the system and the stages that we need to analyze will vary depending on the type of project we are creating. So here, for example, in a conventional building, we will have the design stage, then the construction on site, the occupancy, and the end of life of the building. In a modular building, we will have the material production, the design, but then we will have the module fabrication, the transport to the construction site. There will be the assembly on site, the occupancy, and end of life. So each project is unique. Depending on the analysis, sometimes we will create a system boundary and we will not analyze all the stages. Of course, the most interesting scenario will be to analyze all the stages from cradle to cradle, as I mentioned before, because here we are considering circularity. But sometimes we don't have data enough, we don't have time enough, so we need to consider the limitations and assumptions regarding our own project. But these assumptions and these limitations should be considered during the interpretation phase of the analysis, okay? And when we put together the LCA, LCC, and social LCA, we are conducting a life cycle sustainability assessment considering the 3 pillars of sustainability, okay? And just for you to know, to apply this concept in a real-world project, it can be very challenging because when we are talking about a construction project, as I mentioned before, there will be a huge list of materials, several systems, several components, several stakeholders working together. So we are talking about contractors, subcontractors, engineers, architects, project managers. There are many professionals involved, many data being generated, and we need to process and to manage this data and this information. You probably already know about the CAD methodology. CAD is very traditional in the construction industry, okay? CAD is an acronym that stands for Computer-Aided Design. And of course, it was an innovation when developers created software applications based on CAD. Because now, instead of using paper, pencil, and rulers to create our technical drawings, we can use our computer to assist us during the design process, which is amazing, okay? But at the end of the day, we continue to talk about simple drawings. For example, if we are using AutoCAD and we want to create a floor plan of this room where I am at now, if I want to draw the floor plan, I will draw some parallel lines. For example, these two parallel lines here represent a wall in a floor plan. But at the end of the day, I'm just talking about two lines. There is no information attached to this drawing. So that's the problem. In the traditional approach, we create several documents, but these documents are generated separately. So each professional will generate a specific type of document. The designers, the engineers, and architects will create the technical drawings. Someone will be responsible for creating reports, documents, etc. But sometimes they are not connected. There are many inconsistencies, many overlaps, many problems, okay? Because we are just talking about drawings and there is no information attached to that. Nowadays, we can use a more advanced approach called the BIM methodology. Let me ask you something. Who here already used the BIM methodology in your own projects? Have you ever heard about this methodology? I already delivered technical webinars about BIM, but I don't know if you were here. So if you want, you can check the previous webinars and you will find the video recording of this previous technical webinar, okay, provided by EIT as well, about the BIM methodology, if you are interested in learning more about that. And we also have different types of courses at EIT using the BIM methodology, okay? But just for you to understand the difference, when we talk about CAD, if we are creating architecture, engineering, installation design, you will develop the technical drawing by using points and lines. So you need to create each point and line individually until you have all the necessary elements for your project at the final level. When we talk about the BIM methodology, this is different. BIM stands for Building Information Modeling. So information is the core of this methodology. So when developing BIM projects, a 3D digital model of the building will be created containing all necessary information for graphic expression, constructive analysis, materials takeoff, costs, deadlines, and anything else relevant to the project. I always like to mention to my students that here, for example, we have the comparison of a technical drawing created in a CAD program. In this case, it was AutoCAD, which is very popular in the construction industry. And the other image is about the use of BIM. So what is the difference? Here, when I click on a wall in my 3D module, this wall is actually a database because I can integrate data and information within this wall. Okay, so I can put information about the layers, about the materials to be used, the environmental impacts, the social impacts, the costs, etc. Okay, so basically BIM, or Building Information Modeling, is one of the most promising developments in the architecture, engineering, and construction industries. With BIM technology, one or more accurate virtual models of a building are constructed digitally. And this is the main point. We are not just creating a 3D model that is a visual representation of the facility. This is so much more than that. We are creating an accurate virtual model. So we can use that to carry out different kinds of analysis and simulations to really support the construction, fabrication, and procurement activities through which the building is realized. So we can use the BIM methodology throughout the whole project lifecycle, which is totally related to the discussion that we are having today about the lifecycle thinking and circularity in civil and environmental engineering. So we can use the BIM methodology for planning. So we will inform project planning by combining reality capture and real-world data to generate context 3D models of the existing built and natural environment. We can use that during the design stage. So conceptual design, analysis, detailing, and documentation will be performed, okay? And the pre-construction process begins using BIM data to inform scheduling and logistics. We can also use that during the building stage. So fabrication begins using BIM specifications, and project construction logistics are shared with trades and contractors to ensure optimal timing and efficiency. During the operational stage of the building, we can continue to use the BIM model. Okay, so BIM data carries over to operations and maintenance of finished assets. So BIM data can be used down the road for cost-effective renovation or efficient deconstruction. And basically, we can use that until the facility management stage, okay? So depending on your purpose, you can continue to insert more and more data within the 3D module. And I always mention that to my students when we are developing our realistic case studies in our lectures, in our classes. As I mentioned before, some people arrived later today, but at the beginning, I was explaining the way we provide our courses at EIT. And our courses are very focused on hands-on experience. So we have simulation labs, we have remote labs for the students to practice and to create their own projects. Okay, so you don't need to purchase programs or simulation approaches, simulation methods. You will be able to use that as an EIT student, okay, for free throughout your course to practice, not only for your practical assignments, but this is so much more than that. This is an opportunity for you to develop your technical skills and also your critical thinking, okay, because we want to improve your soft and hard skills for you to be more prepared for your career, okay? So we can create a 3D module. And as I always mention to my students, the more information we insert in this 3D module, the more realistic this module will be. And our idea is to have a prototype of our facility, okay? To simulate everything in advance and to predict problems, to predict things, to test different solutions, to choose the most suitable solution for our case, okay? So we will use the 3D module to improve the decision-making process of our construction project. But a key challenge in applying life cycle thinking in engineering is that traditional BIM environments rely primarily on static design stage information, which provides only a snapshot of the built asset. Of course, BIM is essential for early stage decision making, and it helps ensure the facility meets project requirements, but it does not continuously update to reflect real-time performance, changing operating conditions, or material degradation over time. So sometimes, depending on our project, BIM alone cannot fully support long-term sustainability assessments or circular strategies, which depend on understanding how an asset behaves across its entire life cycle, okay? Because when we talk about life cycle optimization, we need to integrate seasonal variations, the user behavior, because the way the occupants will use the building will affect the results, okay? the climate conditions, the evolution of the physical structure. So we need more dynamic tools. And these limitations highlight the gap between static digital models and the requirements of life cycle-based sustainability assessments, okay? And in these regards, we can talk about digital twins. As I mentioned before, you will receive the PDF with these slides, so you can check the sources if you want to read more deeply about this topic, because of course, we just have 1 hour here, and this concept is very advanced, okay, and very innovative as well. But I will try to summarize and to explain this in an easier way. What is the idea of a digital twin? I think this image highlights this very well. The idea is that we will have two different buildings. The physical real world building that was constructed on the construction site, and now people are there living, working, studying there. And there is the 3D module, the digital building. But this is not a snapshot of the building. This is not just for visual representation. Instead of just using static data, we are also connecting real-time data. So the digital twin will be continuously integrated real-time data from sensors, IoT devices, and monitoring systems to generate a dynamic virtual representation of the physical asset. So basically, there are two different buildings, a physical one and a digital one, and both buildings coexist and feed each other with data and information, okay? So we are collecting real-time data using sensors, devices, cameras in the physical real-world building, and this data will be sent to the digital twin, the digital module, okay, to mirror the realistic reality of the physical building. And this capability strengthens lifecycle thinking by allowing engineers to evaluate how design choices evolve over time and how resources can be used more efficiently within circular frameworks, okay? So basically, our idea here is to create a feedback loop that enables optimizing sustainability outcomes, extending asset lifespans, and planning more responsibly for refurbishment, repurposing, or end-of-life decisions, okay? So this is the idea. We will have the physical assets and the digital twin, and we will connect these with sensors, cameras, devices. We will have an IoT platform to process and analyze this data, okay? And we will create this feedback or intervention flow. So to create a digital twin, we can start from a BIM module, a 3D module with data, documentation, 3D design, and we will integrate this with real-time operational or big data, okay? Also, we will use machine learning algorithms to integrate this data and to focus on data analytics. And basically, we are creating a digital twin of the facility for the improvement of building operation, for predictive maintenance, what-if analysis, and so on. So we can say that digital twins enhance circularity by connecting real-time performance data with long-term sustainability goals, enabling engineers to understand how buildings behave, age, and consume resources throughout their life cycle. So this technology enables continuous monitoring of performance and resource use. It supports predictive maintenance and lifespan extension. It provides accurate data for refurbishment and repurposing. It improves end-of-life decision-making. It integrates with circular design workflows. And ultimately, it enhances scenario simulation and optimization. So just for us to conclude this discussion, and I will open the Q&A session if you have any questions regarding this topic. But just to highlight this and to finalize this presentation, bear in mind that lifecycle thinking provides a powerful framework for designing civil and environmental engineering projects that minimize impacts and maximize long-term value. And by understanding each stage of the built assets lifecycle, from material extraction to the end-of-life recovery, engineers can make informed decisions that support circularity, reduce waste, and enhance environmental and economic performance, which is our ultimate goal. But if we don't use digital tools, it will be very complicated to achieve this type of result. So digital tools like BIM and especially digital twins strengthen this approach by integrating real-time data, enabling continuous assessment, and creating a feedback loop that connects design and operation. So together, these methodologies empower engineers to create more resilient, efficient, and sustainable built environments. So that's it for today. Sorry, because I passed a little bit about the time, okay? But just for you to know, this topic, this webinar is totally related to our School of Civil Engineering, okay? And there are several courses that are offered by EIT and ECT, okay? For example, this first one is amazing. I have the pleasure to deliver this, and this is very focused on hands-on experience, okay? If you want to be an expert on BIM, which is the present and will continue to be the future of the construction industry, but we also have many other programs and courses available in our website, okay? You will receive the slides, so you can click on the links and you can check, okay? We also have a professional certificate of competency in digital twins and simulation monitoring. We have advanced diploma of civil and structural engineering, which is a comprehensive diploma, okay? And we also have Bachelor of Science in Civil and Structural Engineering, an online Master of Engineering in Structural Engineering as well. We have some graduate certificate in Civil Engineering, okay? So feel free to check our website. Here we have the list of some courses that will be available in the following months. Okay, so there will be several courses that will start in January 2026. Okay, so this is the perfect time if you want to consider enrolling in one of these courses. Okay, you can reach out, you can discuss your necessities. Okay, our courses, we have in-person and online courses. So if you don't live in Australia or in the United Kingdom, you can also enroll in our online courses, and you will have the same available resources for you. Okay, we have the remote labs, the simulation labs. Okay, so you will be able to follow the course the same way. Okay, so here you will see the list of courses that will start soon if you want. And again, to receive your digital certificate of attendance for participating in this webinar, you need to fill out this form and the survey here. Okay, so you can use this QR code. I will also copy and paste the link. Let me do that very quickly. The link for the certificate of attendance. Okay, let me copy this here on the chat box. So this will be here. Let me pin this message so everyone can find this more quickly, okay? So just click on this link or use the QR code, okay? And in about 4 business days, you will receive the certificate of attendance, and you can use that in your CV. You can post that on LinkedIn, okay? And it will be a pleasure to continue to discuss this topic with you in our social media, and if you want, in our future courses as well, okay? So do you have any questions, guys? Let me see this message here. If I'm to design a sustainable apartment, what sustainable engineering principles must I consider? And I put in my apartment during the design stage so that I can achieve its sustainability at the design stage and the further in the real life construction. Okay, great question. Again, as I mentioned before, each project is unique, okay? So I cannot give you a list of approaches and techniques to be used very specifically, okay? Because depending on the project, depending on the location, there will be several aspects that will affect this decision. But first of all, you are totally right on thinking about the design stage and also the further stages as well, okay? And this is excellent because sustainability truly begins at the design stage long before construction starts, but then we need to continue to put this into practice throughout the construction stage, the operational stages, and so on, okay? Life cycle thinking is an engineering principle, okay? So the main topic for today to consider impacts from material extraction all the way to end of life is an interesting engineering principle that you can apply in an apartment project, for example. So you will try to choose materials that are durable, low carbon, locally available, okay? And that can be reused and recycled later. This is one point. You can also try to optimize, for example, the orientation, the natural ventilation, shading, insulation, daylighting. So you will use energy efficiency, passive design strategies. We can focus on water efficiency as well, okay? Integrating, for example, low flow fixtures, gray water reuse, rainwater harvesting. There are many possibilities. So again, as I mentioned before, when we talk about a construction project, it can be a simple apartment or it can be a bridge, a dam, an infrastructure project. There are several aspects that we should consider all together. So it can be very challenging, okay? We need to consider the materials to be used, the indoor environmental quality in an apartment, okay? We need to ensure good ventilation, to design for thermal and acoustic comfort, because we need to, sustainability is also about occupant health, occupant well-being, the comfort of the people who will live there in this apartment, for example. We need to think about adaptability, resilience. So there are many principles that we will consider since the design stage, and of course, we will carry them through construction, okay? So in this case, you will increase the overall sustainability of your apartment, not only environmentally, but also in terms of long-term cost, durability, occupant well-being, okay? We need to consider all these points together. Did I answer your question? Is it clear? How about you guys? Do you have any more questions? Okay, now I saw that there are some questions in the Q&A session. Sorry. Great presentation. Well, thank you for your feedback. I really appreciated that. Questions. 1. Are concepts such as nature-based solutions and biochemistry principles incorporated into LCT program or course delivered by EIT? Number 2, for someone interested in pursuing a master's that incorporates LCT principles, what pathways would you recommend? Are there any short licensing courses or other accredited training courses you would recommend? What are some barriers to transitioning from linear project cycle thinking to life cycle thinking within organizations? And how does this shift affect project management principles? Great questions. Thank you so much for your questions and for your attendance as well. I really appreciate that. First of all, regarding the courses at EIT, I know many of the courses that are available, but of course, I only deliver some of them. There are many other amazing lectures at EIT, but this is not part of my course specifically, okay? My courses are not exclusively dedicated to nature-based solutions But we mentioned this, but this is not the whole point, okay? But these principles will be behind all these approaches. When we think about systems thinking, we have a graduate certificate that will finish now, and another graduate course will start in January, I think. And this is all about systems thinking, okay? So this is about project management in a systemic way for the construction industry. And we mentioned different aspects throughout this course. We discussed resilience, we discussed material efficiency, passive design strategies, low impact engineering, okay? So all these topics are very aligned with life cycle thinking, and they are embedded throughout the units in sustainability, construction management, digital engineering, okay? But if you want more details, you can find the courses outlines in our websites. All our courses will have a page specifically dedicated to present the course outline, so you can check what you can expect, and you can always reach out to check our courses, okay? So you can send us a message by email. You can also reach out on LinkedIn, okay? And our marketing team will answer you promptly, okay, to explain everything. But EIT is expanding a lot into ecological engineering, sustainable engineering, and this is amazing, okay, because this is already the present and will continue to be the future of our industry. Regarding the pathways, if you are looking to pursue a master's that incorporates LCT principles, I would recommend programs related to sustainable construction, energy efficiency, circular economy engineering. There are some possibilities at EIT as well, okay? Of course, depending on the master's thesis you want to focus on, you will research a lot about one specific topic, okay? But bear in mind that our courses are ISO aligned, okay? So we are very focused on innovative approaches like LCA. We use different software applications in our courses, okay? So besides the master's course, sometimes these short programs that we have available at EIT can be very helpful for building applied skills before committing to a full master's degree if you want, okay? And your final question, let me check, about barriers to moving from linear project thinking to line cycle thinking. Okay, so actually this is a major challenge for organizations, okay, because there are several barriers. We can talk about the organizational culture. In my opinion, this is the main point, because many teams are still used to traditional short-term decision-making focused on initial capital cost rather than the long-term value. So sometimes it's complicated to convince people to change their mindset. But another point is about data and information gaps, because when we talk about life cycle thinking, it requires reliable data across materials, supply chains, building performance, and unfortunately, many organizations don't have yet the digital infrastructure or the data governance needed to do that, okay? And there are many other points. We can talk about the fragmentation, which is very common in the construction industry, okay? Sometimes design, construction, operation, end of life, they are often managed by different stakeholders and with limited communication among them. So when we talk about life cycle thinking, it requires breaking down these silos and to improve the communication, the integration among everyone, okay? So we need to change our project management approach from a deliver the asset mindset to deliver the performance and deliver the long-term value mindset, okay? So we need to guarantee the collaboration, we need to monitor the performance, We need to plan for long-term maintenance, okay? And in my opinion, I always mention that to my students. Our focus is to transform our decision-making process into a data-driven process. So this should be an informed decision-making process based on realistic data. And to do that, we need to collect data since the beginning. And of course, we need to use digital tools to assist us in centralizing this data and carrying out different kinds of analysis and simulations to test different possibilities and to really improve our decisions throughout the whole project lifecycle, okay? I also want to ask, how do we get the practical hands-on experience since we are distance apart? Okay, so as I mentioned before, for example, I'm in Rio, in Brazil, and I deliver some lectures to students who are in Australia, for example. And I will share my screen. I will create the, I am mentioning my course, okay? But of course, there are different courses available at EIT and different lectures as well, but everyone is very focused on hands-on experience. So there are two important points. The lectures will be live lectures, and we are very focused on active learning methodologies. So the students will be part of the process. The idea is not only for you to go there and to listen to your lecture. No, we want the students to participate, to ask questions, to discuss things with their peers. Okay, so this is one point. And another point is that we have our remote labs. So as an EIT student, you will have access to the remote labs. You can go there, you can book a session, and you will be able to use all the programs, the simulations, everything in your computer without having to install the program in your computer. You will use this remotely. So there are some computers there on campus, okay, with the programs already installed for you. And the most advanced programs, very comprehensive. So we use Revit, Navisworks, Insight. There are many programs actually regarding structural analysis, sustainability analysis, construction techniques, okay? And you will be able to use that remotely by booking a session, and you will create your own projects. Our assignments are very practical as well, okay? So don't worry about that. If you need to enroll in an online course, you will have the same experience as on-campus students, okay? I want to ask if EIT only offers civil engineering. No, actually, we also have, I am a civil engineer, okay? And this topic today was more focused on civil and environmental engineering. But actually, we have different engineering courses in our institute, okay? I think I mentioned this at the beginning. Let me try to come back. So yeah, our Engineering College of Technology and the Engineering Institute of Technology are focused on engineering and technology. So we focus exclusively on engineering and technology, and we offer specialized courses for high demand industry. So mechanical engineering, computational engineering, there are several domains, okay? So feel free to reach out and to check the courses available on our website, okay? And regarding the certificates, I already answered. The link is provided in the chat box. So please fill the form, and in about 4 days, you will receive the certificate, okay? I can see some feedback here on the chat box. Very informative presentation, excellent presentation. Oh, you already received your certificate. Amazing, good to know. And thanks so much, guys, for your words. I really appreciated that. And I really appreciate you being here. I know that this is very late for many of you guys because of the time zone, but it was a real pleasure to discuss this topic. Of course, this topic is very comprehensive, and we just had 1 hour. Actually, I passed a little bit. Sorry about that. But it was a real pleasure. Please reach out. Please check our courses on our website, and it will be a pleasure to have you guys as an EIT student in the future, okay? Here in these slides, you can check the ways you can contact us. So please check our website. We also have our head office in Perth, Australia. If you live there, you can reach out in person. Otherwise, you can call us, you can email us, and you can check the schedule of our courses in our websites as well, okay? We also have our head offices in United Kingdom, if this is your case, but please feel free to reach out in an online way if it's necessary, okay? Thanks so much. Take care. Have a lovely week ahead. And please keep in touch, okay? And check the following technical webinars, because EIT and ECT are always preparing free technical webinars like that, okay? For us to discuss topics, advanced topics like this one. Thanks so much, and see you in a future technical webinar, or if you enroll in our courses, okay? Bye-bye. Thanks so much.